I think we're live. I got a pop-up I haven't seen before. YouTube's always changing, right? How they do things. It is my pleasure to come to you today, this morning, at sunrise from fabulous Las Vegas, as they call it. I'm wearing my most Las Vegas-y t-shirt, although you can't really see the palm tree part, right? So I thought we'd talk in this live stream, if anybody joins, about some of the lessons that I learned long ago. I will say long ago, in one of my first real jobs, which was as a blackjack dealer. And that was not in Las Vegas. I will say that right now. I do not claim to be some big time dealer. I dealt blackjack only, no other games, and that was at a casino that only had blackjack. So did that for a couple of years and really learned a lot from that experience as a young guy, kind of watching all of this taking place all night long. It's really something, especially if you're in a casino in the middle of the night shift stuff. So we'll try to talk a little about that. Hopefully you'll enjoy the views here as the sun comes up over Las Vegas. So anyways, that's my little bit of my blackjack or gambling background. And I don't know, what can I say about it? I mean, you learn so much. You learn that, I don't know. To start with, I was never like a high stakes dealer. That's where like the best, quote unquote, the best of the blackjack dealers are going to be found. I was always a little too sort of argumentative or something, right? A decent dealer only dealt in high stakes. I could count the number of times on two hands, I think. So just kind of an average couple of years spent watching people as they struggled to sort of deal with this whole aspect of gambling and the psychology around the topic, which is something that hopefully we'll get into a little bit later in the live stream. So I'd like to maybe give you a few points here, right? The whole concept that tables flow. You'll hear a lot of blackjack dealers or blackjack players and dealers talk about how the tables flow or the cards flow, and I do agree with that, right? Because I've seen many times where I was at a table as a dealer and just dumping. That's the term that they use, dumping. They say, oh man, that table really dumped. That means that the table really gave out a lot of money to the players, just long period of time, can't explain it. Money just going out like crazy to the players. Why? Well, I guess we have to kind of put that down to this concept of cards do flow, or the table does flow. There are good tables and bad tables, and we don't really know why. But I would say for sure, if you are going to play blackjack, one thing you might want to check is the tray of chips that the dealer has in front of him or her. If that tray is very full, might be an indication that that table is taking in a lot of money. Players have not been doing very well. If that tray is extremely empty, that is a very good indication that you should probably sit down and play at that table because a lot of money has been going out. If you see that very empty tray, that table's been dumping for sure. It would be a very rare case where that would be sort of deceiving. So they do take chips on and off the tables. If they have too many chips in a tray, they will take some off. So that might throw you off a little bit if you're looking for full trays and avoiding them. They do take a lot of the extra chips off the table at some point. They also will do what they call a fill. So if a tray is very empty because it's been giving out a lot of chips to the players, they will also fill chips into the tray, fill it back up again. So it can be a little bit deceiving, but generally, if that tray is very empty, sit down and start playing. If that tray is very full, run away fast. So that's kind of basic stuff that you can do, basic stuff that dealers would have learned that they can kind of pass on to viewers of live streams many years later. YouTube didn't even exist at that time that I was doing all this stuff, but not much changes in blackjack, right? So, what else can we talk about here? I mean, I think there's 4 different strategies that come to mind when it comes to actual blackjack strategy. Some better than others, so probably the worst one would be the whole concept of if you lose, bet more, because eventually you'll win and you'll get the money back. Kind of like chasing your money. So this would be the idea: I lost, I'm gonna bet more. I lost again, I'm gonna bet more. I lost again. Eventually I'm gonna win and get that money back, but you're not really making anything even if you do eventually win. It's kind of a bad way to go from the very start. I think the opposite approach of that is much better, and that is the approach that kind of goes with this whole tables flow concept or cards flow concept, which is if you win, bet more. If you win again, bet even more. If you win again, just keep going, right? That's the parlay approach. And the parlay approach, I think, is much more effective. It kind of goes along with this whole concept of either tables dump or they just suck money in. It's like this giant sucking sound. As Ross Perot, I believe it was, once termed it, the giant sucking sound. He was talking about something else, but we could probably use that as well in reference to how blackjack tables can sometimes work. So you may not want to double your bet every time that you win, but you may want to maybe do an extra 50% every time you win. I think that's a reasonable approach if you do nothing else. Now the third, this is kind of an evolution of approaches as you get better and better at the game. I think the third approach is something that most blackjack most blackjack players really subscribe to, and that is this concept of sometimes called the book. Usually, I guess it's usually termed basic strategy. Oftentimes though called the book. You have to play it by the book. And that's the concept of there are mathematical odds based on the cards in blackjack, and you just have to go based on those mathematical odds, and you'll have the best chance that you can have, right? So the book says do this in this particular scenario. The book says do that in that particular scenario. And once you kind of learn what the book says to do in every single scenario, well, the idea is it's going to be hard to lose a lot of money. Certainly still very possible, right? And sometimes you'll even see people with little cards even sitting at tables sometimes, and they'll look at their little card to see, in this scenario, what does the book tell me to do? So that's just playing it strictly by the odds, and I don't have any problem with that. Generally, that's what I do to inform my play as sort of a foundation of my blackjack play. I rarely ever do play anymore, but when I do, that's the foundation of it. But I will say that there's a lot of sort of weird kind of not scientific stuff that revolves around this playing it by the book, and that is that most players who play that way, they focus on other players and how other players play. So rather than focusing on their own cards and their own betting, they'll focus on like, well, why this person next to me didn't take their hit when the book says that they were supposed to, or this player over here took a hit when, you know, this or that, right? They weren't supposed to do it and they did, and that's why I lost. And that's usually the way this kind of goes, this story goes, is that I lost because I know what I'm supposed to do. I know the odds on every scenario, but this guy over here did something that screwed up my winning. I would have won. And I just think that's absolute bullshit. That other people are affecting you. I think that it's people think that it's others, and otherwise they would have won, but really that's what casinos are, right? You didn't lose because somebody else took a hit when they shouldn't. You lost because you're in a casino. That's what casinos are for, is to take your money. So I don't know. I really don't like this whole concept of the book and everything that comes around it. The book's good, but everything that kind of comes with it is absolute bullshit, right? Play your own cards, bet your own bets, and if you lose, it's because you're in a casino. So that's just my take on it. Now, the third evolution of betting strategy or blackjack strategy is something that I use myself sort of on top of the basic strategy. On top of that, I will put card counting. And this is the concept of you're trying to know what cards have not come out yet based on what cards you've already seen. So I will have a video on this, a whole video, actually 2 videos explaining the whole concept of card counting, how you can do it yourself, how you can learn to do it, as well as how you can use it to inform your betting, inform your blackjack play. But in short, it's essentially trying to learn more about the cards that have not come out yet based on the cards that you have seen come out. So look out for those videos and you'll learn more about how you yourself can try to do some card counting, right? It's not something that the casinos like. They can certainly ask you to leave if they think you're counting cards. And the number one reason why they would suspect that is if your bet is going up and down quite dramatically from hand to hand. If you're betting, $10 and all of a sudden you're betting 50, now you're betting 10 again. That's the typical thing that would cue them off that you are counting cards, in which case they could ask you to leave, they could ask you never to come back. It's not something that's illegal, there's no law against it, but these are private property casinos, right? So if they don't like what you're doing, they can always say, "Sir, we're gonna have to ask you to leave." It's never happened to me, but be interesting if it did someday, right? So that looks like back there, that must be New York. Is that what that's called? I don't know a lot about the different Las Vegas casinos. There's lots of them that I never even knew they were here. We've got very nearby here the Tropicana. It's kind of an old casino, I think, right? And then over there, I recognize that by the name of the Excalibur. Probably the one I would least like to go inside. But these casinos are also busy, especially on this holiday weekend. But just in general, they're also busy that it's kind of tough. The minimum bets and everything are super high nowadays. For me, even though I'm a pretty knowledgeable blackjack person, I don't like to be betting more than $5 a hand if I don't have to. Here, it's really tough to see any tables, even the middle of the night. I was out middle of the night last night, couldn't find anything really below $10, and that was even really tough to find. So you can actually ask they're called floor people, the floor man, or probably now floor people. Those are the people who are kind of walking around inside of what's called the pit. So the pit is that roped off area where there's a group of tables kind of roped off together. That's the pit, and it's got one supervisor. The highest supervisor is the pit boss. Kind of a rough sounding name, but most pit bosses in my experience are actually quite nice people, the ones that I worked with. So that's the person who's actually really in charge of the whole pit, which is I think something like 12 tables together in a group, roped off. And then under the pit boss, there are like 2 or 3 what they call floor men, floor people, who they supervise a group of 4 tables. Of course, then you have the dealers, right? 1 per table. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize about dealers, at least in my experience, was that there's tons and tons of break time. It's probably one of the best things about the job is that when I was doing it, we were getting 20 minutes every hour. So you would work an hour, and then you would have a 20-minute break. So you were just constantly on break. One thing you'll notice maybe about dealers is that they seem to really know each other. Everybody knows each other. That's because they spend so much time in the break room, playing cards with each other, smoking, all that fun stuff. And so they tend to really, over the years, get to know each other very well. And sometimes you might go on something called 20/40s, especially in the middle of the night, where you're actually on a table for only 40 minutes, and then a 20-minute break. 40 minutes, then a 20-minute break. So those, is it 40/20s or 20/40s? I don't remember, but those are even better. So definitely, if you like those breaks, break time, dealer might be a job for you. Although I wonder how long we'll have lots of dealers. It seems to be more and more going over to not live people on live tables, right? I'm gonna miss it. I really like the live people aspect of it, the live tables. Although I will tell you, in Vegas, one thing I don't like about the tables is that the dealers have this tendency to tell people what to do, to tell people how to play, not even wait for you to make a decision on in certain scenarios. They will just bypass you if they believe that there is nothing for you to do or something, or they will really tell you what to do. Not my my favorite thing about Las Vegas. So, where were we? We were talking about, I don't know, what was it? Different ways to play blackjack, different approaches. I was talking about card counting. So anyway, we haven't had anybody join yet. It's very early in the morning here in the US. I'm not sure what time it is in Europe. I'm trying to get some more viewers overseas as well, so I thought maybe if we did an early live stream, somebody might show up. But you can see they must have that a magician guy, David Copperfield. Is that his name? Is that his real name? I mean, is he the guy who... No, I'm thinking of somebody else. There's another guy who likes to levitate and stuff. So they got lots of shows here. The Germans seem to be very fond of Las Vegas. Lots of German people staying at my hotel. And I know that they had... I don't know if Siegfried and Roy are still here in Las Vegas. I know that one of the two got attacked by one of the tigers. I'm not sure if it was Siegfried or if it was Roy. So one of the two had to kind of drop out, and then the other one, I guess, kind of kept the show going for a while. And those guys are German. So I don't know if that's kind of like the German angle on Las Vegas, but you definitely see plenty of German people here. So what do you think? I'm glad we can get some really nice views of Vegas, and probably call it for the day, right? Call it for here as a interesting morning after a long night. Been up all night, so I do need to go and get some sleep, but I don't know. If I could give anybody some advice on blackjack, I mean, we talked about the tray thing. That's probably the easiest one, is to look at the trays and try to go from there. But I'd also probably say something like, don't be afraid to hit a 12. Right? Got plenty of room there to work with, and I guess kind of in life in general, right? You have this choice of whether you're going to try and make something happen or whether you're just going to wait and see if something happens. And I've always kind of taken the approach of, if you've got a 12, you got a lot of room to work with. Yeah, something bad could happen if you mess with it, but it's probably better to try to make something happen for yourself than to just wait around and hope that it does, see what happens. So I like to hit those 12s. I hope you do too. And that would probably be my parting advice on Blackjack. I hope that you'll watch some of the card counting videos where I kind of show you how to count cards, why you would want to do that, how you can use it perhaps to your advantage. And I think I'm going to go get something to eat here, some breakfast at one of those places where it's probably not going to be very good. But I need something, and that's what they've got here in Vegas, is something. So, until our next live stream, I wish you good luck, all the best. Until then, goodbye.